This is Dianne Andrews in Black and White. The issues you don't want to talk about. The arts and entertainment you need to know. And now here's your host, Dianne Andrews.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. I thank you for tuning in to us today, whether you're on YouTube watching us all over the world, or whether you're in Louisiana where we're a statewide program. Today, I have for you a very distinguished professor from Louisiana State University who wrote a book, A View from the Inside, 36 Years of Desegregation is what the title of the book is, by Dr. Thomas Durant. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Durant.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And one of our old favorites here is Kathy Eames. Kathy has been with us 2 times previously. She played Rachel Dole's kind of telling us what she thought of what the NAACP President did in Spokane, who was a white lady who passed for black, right? Who would have thought it, right? They call it transracial. But today what we're going to talk about is her experience and her husband's experience also at Louisiana State University, working with Coach Dale Brown to help desegregate LSU. Dr. Durant is from Mansfield, Louisiana. As everybody knows, I'm from Northern Louisiana, and I always make this statement: everybody from North Louisiana is a good person. And I've had a lot of people on here from North Louisiana. And he went to Grambling, which is up in Grambling College at that time. It wasn't Grambling University back then, right, Dr. Durant?
That's correct.
And then he went on to the University of Wisconsin and got his PhD in sociology. His whole education is in sociology. Then he came to LSU in 1973. The consent decree had already been passed. When he came there were only 500 students at LSU. Today, LSU has 30,000 students, and 11% of that student body is black. 22% are minority. So he's going to tell you about his journey all the way from desegregation to what is really called virtual integration. My nephew asked me when I was saying something about desegregation, he said, that's the same as integration, right, Aunt Diane? I said, not really. Desegregation has to come first. It is the legal part of ending segregation. And integration is really a social choice. You cannot legislate integration. It's a social domain where you eat together, you live in the same areas, you go to the same churches. So what we really say we have today at LSU and at some other places is called a term called virtual integration. What do you think about that, Dr. Durant?
I think that's a good term to use because we haven't arrived yet fully into what we call a fully integrated society or a university. Now, I grew up in a segregated community, segregated church, segregated schools, everything was segregated. For the first 30 years of my life, I lived in a segregated environment. And
even at University of Wisconsin?
Well, this was growing up in Mansfield.
30 years?
And
okay.
The only integration we had in Mansfield was working for white folks, you know, basically.
And it was like the help. People were still riding in the back of the car and coming in through the back door.
I was part of the help.
Right.
I went to work with my mother. She was a domestic servant, and I polished furniture in the big house for a nickel a day. Now, from that journey...
What did she make, a dime a day?
She made $1 per day.
Okay.
And my dad made 50 cents per day.
Now, what year was that, just to give people a perspective?
This was 1945.
Okay.
I was 4 years old, and I went to work with her prior to school. Now, from that journey in Mansfield, through different universities, went to the Peace Corps, I come back to Louisiana and was employed at Louisiana State University.
But let me just ask you this one question. At University of Wisconsin, was it integrated at that time, being in the Midwest? Was it much more progressive than it was in Mansfield and in Louisiana?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Although it was a majority white, they were more liberal and open to other.
Because the Deep South was always known at that time
more
to
diverse.
Be the worst. Yeah.
In fact, Wisconsin had African American football players in the mid '60s. In fact, it was because of Wisconsin's integration that LSU, it impacted LSU because they had to play each other 1 year. And LSU was not sure they wanted to play Wisconsin because they had black football players. And so I'm
Did
sure
they think
that
it was going to rub off on them through the jerseys?
I'm sure that Mrs. Eames is going to talk more
Right.
about that because you know the whole area of sports was one
Right.
area whereby desegregation could take place in the sports arena.
Right.
And people came to love each other on the sports team, but outside of that, you know, it was a struggle.
Right.
A social struggle, a political struggle, a legal struggle.
And
just
when you
for
mention
blacks
legal,
and-
we have to talk about A.P. Tereaud, who filed,
That's correct.
the attorney out of New Orleans, who filed a lot of the suits for Louisiana versus with the federal government to get the consent decree. He had passed, I think, by the time you came to LSU. I think he was passed, but we cannot forget him.
That's
because
right.
without him, it wouldn't have happened when it did
Absolutely.
happen. Dr. Durant, as you mentioned sports, I'm going to turn to Kathy a minute and talk about what her husband, the former NAACP president, did back in 1972 working with Dale Brown.
Good.
Kathy, I know he wasn't the president of the NAACP at that time. I think Dr. Dorsey Bryant was. But the consent decree had been performed, and with certain goals that LSU had to attain. And Dale Brown wanted to integrate.
He did.
The basketball coach.
Dale was committed
Right.
to recruiting men first and basketball players second, and he wasn't concerned whether they were black or white.
Right.
LSU had been hampered for years, though, by the Jim Crow laws that were enacted in 1956 prohibiting mixing of races at sporting events. They couldn't even participate in a Super Bowl in New Orleans with black players because of that. So LSU had a history.
Wait, as a guest, I couldn't go to the Super Bowl?
No,
it wasn't segregated at
the
the
players,
Dome, right? Or
there could be no mixing of the players.
Okay.
Now, I think that black people could go to the games, but of course they sat in the segregated section. But when George, back in the 50s, the 60s, George loved sports. He went to LSU games, and when
he was kind of sitting there by himself sometimes.
he was
in
sitting
the
by
blacks,
himself,
the colored
right.
section back then.
And Dale Brown was coming at halftime back to the locker room after he was losing badly to Kentucky, and
This
he
is an all-white team.
correct. And as he passed by the area where George was sitting, George yelled out to him, "Coach Brown, you're never gonna win any basketball games. Do you get some brothers to play for you?"
That's right.
And Dale Brown was angry because he's been trying to recruit blacks, but they wouldn't come to LSU. LSU's history
Because of the Jim Crow
racism.
laws here and-
Right.
and racism.
So Dale Brown knocked down the little rope separating the seating section, poked George in the chest and said, "I've been trying to get blacks, but they won't come. If you can find some brothers with enough pioneer spirit to play, I'll play them." The next day, George called him, and that's how they started working together.
Well, Dale Brown once told me he told the establishment at LSU before he would take this job, he was going to hire the best or recruit the best basketball player. He didn't care what color he was, and that was going to be the end of some desegregation on the basketball and hopefully all the sports. Dale did tell him that, and that's what happened. But let's go back to you and your journey. Now, Kathy is holding a book that you all have seen me talk about before. This is her book, Warrior for Justice, that portrays her and George Eames' journey, and it's very interesting. I tell you, truth is stranger than fiction in this book. So tell me about what you saw. It was 500 students at 1973, which was a year after Dale Brown came. What did you see? Yeah. And what do you think your major impact was there at LSU and all the black faculty that did come? How many faculty members were there? I know 500 students, but how many faculty?
Well, when I arrived at LSU in 1973, the black students were protesting for improvement in the quality of the environment for African Americans, faculty, staff, and students. That was a group by the name of Harambe, and so they were protesting. But as a faculty member, I could not sit by and watch the students protest for desegregation and not do anything myself. So myself, Carolyn Collins, and Alan Lee,
other professors,
the Black Faculty and Staff Caucus, and we established a coalition with the students to help promote not only desegregation, but you mentioned virtual integration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there had to be equity after you arrived there.
Right.
Just the admission of blacks is one thing, but making the environment conducive to a high quality of life is another.
Like I said, you can legislate desegregation, but you
That's
cannot
right.
legislate full integration.
That's correct.
Right.
And so for the next 30 years, we were engaged in the cultural transformation of LSU.
Right.
So it's amazing that the African Americans who were hired or who were admitted to LSU became a part of the movement to desegregate and bring about cultural transformation of the university.
How successful do you think that's been, or was that? You left in 2009, I think?
I left in 2009, and I would say that the movement had become stagnant because the consent decree called for increasing the student population, black student population
18%. 18%, yeah.
And you mentioned earlier,
It's 11%
it's
now.
11%.
But 22% minority out of 30,000
That's
students.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
But-
So we still have a long ways to go, and I usually.
But maybe the issue is now, though, Dr. Durant, a lot of black students just don't want to go to LSU.
Well,
you can't make them if they don't want to.
Well, that's correct. You know, and that was one reason that the consent decree came to an end, because the state legislators claimed that we have a freedom of choice.
Right.
Although that's not completely true, because there are institutional barriers that still exist.
Tell me what some of them are.
Scholarships, tuition, the atmosphere that still exists, that still is somewhat hostile in some ways, some covert discrimination sometimes.
But wouldn't
And
you
then-
say that part could exist anywhere, and not just
It
against
could.
black versus white, but against people who don't like Jewish people?
Well,
You know,
yes.
people who don't like
Yes.
anything. They may not like a Yankee. I hear people down south don't like people from New York.
Well, that's correct.
Isn't the world going to always be virtual
Yeah.
integration in a
Yeah.
way, you all?
That's true. At LSU now, there's an Office of Diversity.
Yeah.
And they have so many different types of minorities now
Right.
that you wouldn't believe. But,
Right.
but they all may face problems of a certain nature, gender, sexual orientation, veterans. And even there was one claim that there were some white minorities at LSU.
What does that
And-
mean, white minorities? Because
That
white
mean-
people are 63% of the population in the country.
Well, that means that in certain, within the university, in certain programs, whites could be the
Oh, yeah.
minority.
Minority.
What about on the football team?
Right. Now
You
they are
got
the minority. They
whites
weren't
and
back then.
minorities. That's amazing, isn't it? You know?
Well, but I
It
think, you know, discrimination can be on any level. If I'm the
Sure.
minority in the team and I happen to be white now,
Sure.
maybe I am discriminated against.
Sure. And one of my concerns is that if LSU can recruit African American athletes, they should be able to recruit African American students with the same vigor.
But you know, athletes bring in money. Let's go
Well,
to the real deal here,
that's
right?
True. That's true. And that's one of the problems too, because they benefit.
Right.
But then how much are they going to put back into scholarships
Right.
to attract the top?
What would you think? Let's wrap. We're
students?
about to wrap it up, Dr. Durant. What would you say is the major, your significance there, and what you did, and the other black professors to help bring this
Well-
desegregation to an end?
Yeah, well, I was part of the lived experience.
What about the organization? It was one you told me you were most
It's the-
proud of. What's the
It's
name
the
of
Black
that?
Faculty and Staff Caucus.
Yeah.
And it still exists at LSU. We left that in place when I retired to continue the work of bringing about cultural transformation. So I left, but the organization remained.
Okay.
And so if you can create or produce something that can
A legacy.
endure, a legacy that can
More than you.
endure
Yeah.
long past, our
Your time.
here
Yeah.
on Earth, then I think that you have contributed to the furtherance of
You're
of the
right. And
development of
you
humanity.
had a purpose and you
That's right.
attained it. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Durant.
Yeah, thank you so
and thank
much.
you, Kathy, again. I'm one of our regulars. I'll have you
Wonderful.
back again. Thank you. We're going to come on back to another section of the show, another segment. So come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
Order your copies now of Dianne Andrews' latest books, Third Man Out, a suspenseful mystery by Dianne Andrews, and Gumbo for the Heart, 25 stories of faith, hope, and charity, both available now on Amazon.com.
So, April.
Yeah?
You know your charger's still using energy when it's plugged into the wall, right?
Yeah, but that's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
So, Malcolm, you do know that energy savers last 6 times longer than ordinary light bulbs.
This isn't my room. It's Baron Davis's.
Baron Davis, the basketball player? This is his room?
Yep.
Interesting, because we have Baron Davis right here. Baron, do you live here?
No.
I don't mean that, Baron Davis.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
The mailbox and the traffic light. Both are ideas from the minds of African Americans. Support the United Negro College Fund, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. As you know from last year, my first year out, I was a sponsor of the Bayou Classic. And I'm proud to be a sponsor of the Bayou Classic again this year. So with me, I have someone representing the Bayou Classic. And guess where he's from? North Louisiana. You know how I love the people in northern Louisiana. I always say they're good people, and they are. And Reggie Flood is his name. Thanks for being with us today, Reggie.
Thank you for having me.
Even though he went to Southern, he is here to represent NAACP.
Yes.
As part of the Bayou Classic. So tell us about the Bayou Classic. It's 42nd year.
It's the 42nd year. I'm here representing NAACP. We are the management company for the Bayou Classic. I'm an official spokesperson for Bayou Classic. And the 42nd year, and we are trying to make it as big as it's ever been.
200,000 people were there last year. So are you expecting more this year, or do you know?
Yes, we are pressing for more. This is really, what we're looking at this year is really getting out and talking and having more young people involved and kind of creating a new generation of Bayou Classic fans.
So tell the people, the new fans and the old fans, what are you doing to do that? Are you using social media? How can they reach and find out more about the Bayou Classic?
Yes, the Bayou Classic, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the social media platforms, they're there. Just look up the Bayou Classic and you'll find it. Of course, we have mybayouclassic.com, where is the website? BayouClassic.com, where you can find out ticket information, you can find out information about hotels, anything that's going on with the Bayou Classic, you can find out through mybayouclassic.com or through our social media platforms. We're kicking off Bayou Classic with a press conference, which is going to be Tuesday the 24th. That'll be the coaches of November 24th, Tuesday the 24th. That'll be the kickoff press conference. Then of course we'll go Thursday, the Bayou Classic Thanksgiving Day parade, big parade. We expect.
I heard that's a wonderful parade.
Yes, we expect a bunch of people to come out on Thanksgiving evening, have a good time.
Now, where does it go start and end? Do you know where the parade starts and where it ends?
Well, actually, we're working out the route. We're making some adjustments to the route. Hopefully, by the end of the week, we'll be able to let everybody know what exactly it'll be. And if you go to mybayouclassic.com or you check out our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the route will be on there. So we'll keep everybody informed and let everybody know.
Now, I know last year I had Preston Castile and Dottie talking about battling it out, who was going to win. One represented Brown and one represented Southern University, and Southern did end up breaking the tie.
Yes.
The 41st game last year. So the 42nd game, Grambling is probably hoping to make that a tie again, right?
Yes.
How are the SWAC records between Grambling and Southern this year?
Right now, Southern is 4-1, Grambling is 6-0.
6-0?
Yes,
Wow,
both teams are having really great seasons, and we're just hoping that they continue to build on it and continue to grow, because we want the Bayou Classic to be the game that decides who goes to the championship, the SWAC championship.
Which is where?
It's going to be in Houston, Texas
in Houston.
this year. Yes.
One thing I would like to say, I remember reading about Devon Gales, I think is his name. He got hurt, one of Southern University's players, and I know, I wanted to say all of our, from Dianne Andrews in Black and White, all of our compassion, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery from that.
Yes, definitely prayers are with Devon. The Southern players have done a great job of kind of coming together and lifting their spirits. And it's just, it's one of those things, those tragic things that happen, but the community, the football community, the community of Baton Rouge, the SWAC community, because even this weekend Grambling did a tribute to Devon for their homecoming. So it's kind of galvanized everybody, and we're all praying for him and hoping and looking forward to seeing him get better.
Yeah, we are. I think he's got a long road to recovery, but let's hope he recovers 100% if possible.
Definitely.
Through the grace of God. Yes. So now you went to Southern, so how do you feel sitting up here? I know you want Southern to win, but you can't say that because you represent the NOCCI.
Well, this is the thing about the Bayou Classic. The Bayou Classic, everybody thinks it's one of those rivalries where everybody hates each other, but it's not. It's a family-friendly rivalry.
It's really true rivalry. It's really true competition.
Exactly, because it's that 1 week out of the year where Southern and Grambling, and we're really family. 51 weeks out of the year, most everybody that went to Southern has family or somebody that went to Grambling. Everybody who went to Grambling has family that went to Southern. So that 1 week out of a year, it's a rivalry. For me this year, it's a little different. I have to stay neutral. I have to walk the line. I just want a great football game. We're moving to NBC Sports this year from NBC, from the big NBC broadcast. We're moving to NBC Sports, which is going to be a great thing because they concentrate and their focus is on sports, and it's in 81 million households. So it's still going to be available in 81 million households, and it's going to be more of a focus on sports and give you a broader view of the universities as a whole.
That's
so
good.
We're looking forward to that.
So people know what's going on at the universities.
Exactly.
I know that it's always a Saturday after Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
so what is that date? November 28th.
November 28th, and the time has been moved to 4 o'clock.
Because it was earlier,
yeah, it was 1 o'clock. It has been a 1 o'clock start traditionally.
People can't get up.
Yeah.
They've been out partying the night before, so you had to move it. That was a good choice to move it later in the day.
They moved the time back to 4 o'clock later in the day, so people won't have to have that struggle to recover from Friday night. So it's going to be a great thing. Like I said, NBC Sports. So check your local listings now. To find out, for November 28th, so you'll know what NBC Sports is.
Now, another thing I wanted you to talk about, Reggie, was the Battle of the Bands, because we all know Southern University has the best band in the land. I know you can't say that this year, but is it just Southern and Grambling battling in the Battle of the Bands, or do other bands come into that?
No, the Battle of the Bands and Greek show is going to be Friday night, and it will be just Southern and Grambling's band battling, but we're going to add some new things that are going to be a big surprise to the crowd. So, you know, come out, be prepared. There are going to be some new things involved in this. It's sponsored by the United States Marines, and we also have the Greek show that goes on, which will be participating Greeks from Southern, Grambling, and some of the local universities. They do participate. Xavier, Dillard, some of those chapters do participate, but it's mostly Southern and Grambling. And the Battle of the Bands, it's a huge event. Everybody looks forward to it. But also earlier that day, there's the Bayou Classic Job Fair.
Oh, that's one. Is that new, or has that? How long has that been going on?
It's been going on, but we've expanded it. It's getting bigger every year, and we want to have. It's about the students at the end of the day.
When you say earlier that day, that's the Friday before.
Yes, that's the Friday. That's the 27th Bayou Classic Job Fair.
Okay.
We want all the students to know.
And major corporations are there and small businesses?
Right now we're looking at 22 employers. We're seeking out more, but it's about the students. We want them to be able to come in, bring their resumes in, sit down, and have a chance to really interview and see what it's like in the job market.
Right.
So that's one of the big events that we really want to push. We really want to get the students involved in it. We want to party with a purpose.
Are you looking freshman on up, or you want junior, senior, or everybody?
Whoever wants the experience.
Right.
We want them to be involved.
I would recommend that to
Yes.
everybody, because out of college I went to work for IBM, and you know, that's from Rouge, Louisiana,
Yes.
to IBM in New York is a major transformation. So the more experience you can get in talking to people who are already in corporate America and already successful is very good for you to plan your next step in your career. And maybe some internships they could be trying to get to some of the students.
Definitely. We really want to promote that. We really want the students to be involved, because the bottom line, the game is played. Everything we do is about the students, because all the money from Bayou Classic goes back into scholarships.
And half goes to Southern and half goes to Grambling. Thanks for being here, Reggie. Now I have to do my close for Dianne Andrews in black and white. Everyone knows, who's ever seen my show, I do a lighting of a white candle at the end of the show. I saw this as a little girl growing up in Rouge, Louisiana. And one of the few people that's ever been on my show, Reggie knows where Rouge, Louisiana is. I think he has family close to there because he's from Monroe. There was this Christian show that came on every Sunday morning before I went to church, and it said, if everyone lit just one little candle, what a bright world this would be. And it stuck with me all my life, and I've tried to live my life that way, to look at this candle as a light, a beacon of goodness, a beacon of hope, a beacon of doing better in your life, and going out and trying to help other people to do better. Because the only thing better than receiving is giving. Giving gives you something good from the heart. It helps you to have a purpose-filled life. I have a formula for success. Being a mathematician, it's a long formula. Success equals 3D plus 2P plus N. And I only had 2P at first, and now it's 3P, which I included the purpose. The book, The Purpose-Driven Life, shows you that you have to have a purpose. If you don't in your life, you're really running around like a chicken with their head cut off. When you find your purpose, you'll be compassionate about whatever you do. So let's all go out, do what we can to help others, and also make ourselves better in doing that. Thank you very much for watching Dianne Andrews in black and white. See you next time. Bye-bye.